FashionGHANA.com.
All right, so you're originally from Canada.
Yes.
What's your actual roots like?
Yeah.
Where would you say your lineage? Is it Jamaica? Is it Barbados? Is it Nigeria?
Yeah, so my grandparents were actually born in Jamaica, right? And me personally, I was born in Toronto, Canada, so Canadian. And my parents were born in Canada as well. So okay. I'm like hanging by a thread of Jamaican roots, right. but I'm still connected. Yeah.
So being that you're in Canada, which is right next door to America, what's race relations like in Canada? Like what ignites your conscious music? Like what made you say, I am not going to be twerking, I'm going to be, Afroing.
Yeah. Afroing. I never heard that. Afroing, that's a new term now. I feel like, for one, I've always loved reading. Yeah. So it always sparked my mental stimulation when it comes to reading books that talk about things that I don't directly see, right? But I learn about, right? So being in Canada, everyone thinks, oh, Canada is nice, there isn't much racism, or it's peaceful, etc. It's not true at all. There's a difference between overt racism in your face and subtle racism. I would rather the overt, show me the knife right in front of your face as opposed to behind the back, right, and smiling at me, right? So I think that's different between Canada and America. America's blunt with it, right? I've seen so much forms of prejudice, racism and sexism in living in Toronto and Canada as well, right? From Indigenous people, people of color, as they call it, as well, African people, and how we're treated, right? So seeing that, I also lived in America for 10 years. Oh, okay. So I've seen overt racism in your face.
It's overt in America, right?
Very. Okay. Like, it's that almost comical at this point, right? Wow. They're not even trying to be subtle with it, right? So there is that difference between the Canadian and American racism. But yeah, there's nothing to like take light of, just like Canadian type of thing. Yeah.
So how do you feel about the recent situation and just the overall presidency with Donald J. Trump?
First of all, this is so off the wagon. I'm going to throw this in there.
Go ahead.
Donald Trump, he's a Gemini, and most Geminis in power are insane. So, but his ideologies, though, right? He's the most hypocritical, contradicting, overt racist president that I've ever encountered, besides George Bush. Him and George Bush are like brothers at this point, right? What really concerns me is, of course, the following that he had. But it didn't shock me, right? Because, once again, there's that awareness and seeing that America has been racist from the beginning. It's built its structures and system off of the backs of Black people, African people, right? So Donald Trump was just a large human form projection of the ideologies of a lot of Americans, especially a lot of white Americans, right? So it wasn't shocking that he was in power for as long as he was, that he got away with so much that he got away with. It was just more concerning that we see a large collective of even people of color, Indigenous people, Black people that were supporting him. And that made me just question, what's in the mind of the people, right? So when you listen to him speak, and I think a lot of people, this is just flown over the head. Listen to people when they speak. They really show you who they are, right? Don't listen to someone who says, oh, this is what I want to be, this is what I'm gonna be. Listen to someone who they are right now, what they're showing you. And Trump has shown so much contradictive, hypocritical statements that were like, it's mind-blowing at this point. He says one thing, says the next, so yeah.
But what would you say, because I'm not playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, you're just asking.
I don't see Trump as a racist. So, and I'm not going to debate, everyone's right to their opinions. But I just wanted to say, what would you say, like tangible, what would you say, this is a tangible reason why I am calling Donald Trump a racist?
Well, I would say from when he wanted to build the wall to keep Mexican people out, a literal wall to keep them out, and the terms that he would call them, either savages, even Black people too. There's been an interview where he would say, these groups of Blacks are and then he would cut his words and it'd be like African American. So he has a lot of slip-ups with the words that he says that I'm like, wait a minute, let's not ignore what was actually called here, what was actually said. Let's actually listen to the words that he's saying, right? So there's certain terms of words that he uses to describe people of color that I'm like questioning. No man who wouldn't think prejudice in that way would even call, certain people of color this, etc.
And don't you feel like the fact that and this is not an opinion, this is the reality, the fact that he's done more for black people than any other president prior to him, well, unless you want to talk about Lincoln who freed the slaves, but then that's a bit, left here and there. But in terms of him, from my acknowledgement, getting a lot of people out for crimes that weren't violent crimes, reducing unemployment in the black community, giving them school choice, because one thing that is known in the conscious community is that the schools don't educate us well, and they've put all these bad schools, so it's like a school to prison system. Trump is the first president to bring, I can't remember the word, but it's like school choice. So now you don't have to limit your child to the schools in your areas. You can go outside of your state and get educated, or your city and get educated, which they had restricted black people, and black people were the most affected by that. So all of these things that he has put in place are literally most of the things that people in the conscious movement are saying, this is how they're targeting us, and he's undone it. Don't you think, action-wise, words could be words, people say they hear him say this, people say he didn't say it, people say he said that. But action-wise, he was more beneficial for the black community than even Obama. He even funded the HSBCUs. I don't know what they call it, but the black colleges. More than any president has before. He had a lot of black people in his administration, but they eventually got scared away by the media, by them. So by actions and results, do you still feel he is racist? Or how?
I definitely believe anyone a part of so-called the Proud Boys and would tell them stand back and stand by, all right, to do that. I do believe words are actually the most important things, as well as action. Both of them combined actually create this form of energy where I'm hearing something now, you're saying it from your mouth, so you're telling me who you are once again. Your actions might be saying this, right? But sometimes the action that you're doing could be contradicted because your words are saying this. So there isn't this clear focus, alignment of this is what I'm doing for the African community, because you do this and then you say this and then you do that. So I don't trust people who are wishy-washy with the words and then one thing with the action, right? They both have to align with me, in my opinion. And honestly, I never compare anything with worse. It always ends up making the other thing look better. So great, he's done a few things here and there for the African American community, but when you look at his entirety and like I said, his speech, his mind, his mentality, and who he is as a person, cool. I start thinking, okay, that's great, you did this, but are you even okay in the head? And is this an aesthetic as well to appeal for more votes too? So it makes me, your character now makes you question the actions of what you're doing, right? So that's what makes me think that. It's great, I'm not taking away for what he did do, but it's just, please make the things align, right?
Okay, so just one more thing and then we're going to move away from Trump, okay? Because I was also, in tune with the conscious community back in the days. And I have this understanding, okay, or this thought. Let me say this thought because nothing is proven. Once upon a time, black people were the enemies of society, and they were the enemies of the media. We were criminals, we were thieves, we were thugs, we were rappers, we were smacking the B words, and we were on almost every newspaper that a black person was arrested, right? And it benefited the American government at that time because it led to mass incarcerations and lockup of black people, and that was the Clinton time. He was president. George Bush came into power afterwards, and then the Arabs were the enemy, the Muslims, because it benefited them.
9/11,
and invading the countries, what have you. Do you think that there's a chance that this whole issue of Trump is a racist and his followers are racist is because at this stage it benefits the American government to create a divide between black and white people? So that is being pushed in us because white people going against the government now they just say, hey, they're racist, and then they get the defense of black people. Black people going against the government, they just say, hey, they're thugs, and then they get the defense of white people. So maybe there could be a divide that's being pushed by the media. So the black people and white people don't stand together and say, this is the same government that's messing all of us up. You don't think that could be the issue, or you think Trump's followers are genuinely like racist, like the people who do support him?
So I think it's a combination of things, right? I know for a fact that there are ignorant, slow, I'm going to call them slow, Trump supporters who are blatantly Ku Klux Klan members, right? Because they created that ideology in their head that this man is one of us as well, right? And then there are some people who are Trump supporters who think bigger because he's helped with this, this, and that. So I don't think everyone collectively is racist just because they follow Trump, right? But I do, once again, and I have to stress this over and over again, you show me who you are every time I listen to you when you speak. So that's cool. I can pretend that America's trying to do a division, but when you speak, you're already dividing your own words. You're dividing my mind by even me trying to understand what the heck you're even saying right now. So people have to take accountability for the words that they say and the words that they use especially when it comes to a position of power, right? You have a responsibility, right, for a form of intelligence at the very least, right, and articulate yourself in a way that makes sense for the people. So I would agree with you if everything he was saying wasn't contradicting what he was doing, right? I'd be like, okay, maybe it's just a division tactic, right? But the whole country of America needs healing, right? They need to acknowledge what was done years and years and years and not try to sweep it under the rug, because the truth always comes to light, and that's what's happening, right? Revolution. It's almost like Rome is falling again. So,
FashionGHANA.com.
TV. I came to slavery.
100%
African.
fashion.